You told me that you had some games saved in the study. Now, right now I am on your longer games, on your rapid games. Do you want me to go through these or not really?
No, some of them. The most recent one was a huge joke. I played with one of my friends, but yeah. So if you could find the study, that would be
Oh,
best.
right. You sent it to me via email or?
Let's see. I can see if I can send it over Skype. Real
Oh, you
quick.
should be able to. Yes, links do come across. I see you played a very famous game, just the second game in the row. He is a very highly recognized
Yeah.
chess player, so
Mhm.
you are picking your
It was
opponents
like
really well.
15 minutes of fame, or rather, the four Crazy House
Oh yeah,
games of
that was
fame.
awesome. The blindfold crazy house. I'm still thinking about posting it, but the problem is that because of I forgot to turn off the music, YouTube
Mm.
would mute it. Anyhow, have you got the link?
Yes, let me send it real. Oh man, this new Skype is very confusing.
Yeah, it took me a while to get used to it, but now I am used to it, so it's all good.
How do I send a chat now that I'm full
Top right
screen?
corner there is the chat icon.
Let's see.
Actually, am I on screen share? Yeah. So if you look at my screen, this is normally this is hidden. So you go top right here, and then the chat pops up. Wait, maybe I will type something into you, and then it will do something.
Oh wow, they come. Oh, there it is. They put it at the bottom left-hand corner for this new one.
All right. So you have got a newer version than me, rightio. Okay, link here. Awesome. So we shall copy
There's
this link, we shall paste this link, and we shall be happy. Alright, so do I start at the bottom or the top? Or I would say,
top. Go from top to bottom. That's harder and harder opponents, I think.
okay, I thought that we've seen some of these already, but I may be wrong. So the one and only LQH is black here. Okay, I find these arrows annoying for the time being.
Oh, I drew those, so.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, so if you are black, Lawrence, here we have got our first tactics missed, which I think you know what it is because I recall that you have played this tactics later on against somebody else. So bishop c5 here, whilst is a good move, it's not the best because it misses a tactical trick. Do we know what this tactical trick is?
Is this to take the knight and then win the pawn
Take
on
the
e4?
knight. I don't know how you take a knight here.
Oh, bishop to b4?
Nope, definitely not. There are a number of problems with bishop b4 here. They simply castle, and you definitely don't want to go down this way.
Right.
So no, what you're missing here, Lawrence, is this very commonly known tactic of knight takes e4, knight takes e4, and d5, forking the two dudes, and thereby regaining the piece and gaining the upper hand in the center, no matter what response they do. Okay, so if bishop takes, queen takes, you've got the two bishops in better central control. If they play bishop b5 takes, knight takes, then funnily enough here, this early queen sortie is actually very strong because it hits both pieces. And if bishop takes, pawn takes, then the knight is not a happy camper. And even worse, if knight takes, then you take the bishop. Very typical theme. You take the more valuable piece. Well, technically they are worth the same, but the bishop is obviously more of a worry for you to not to take. And then when the knight goes back, queen g5, hitting the g2 pawn. And it looks like you are moving your queen up and down like a madman, but the reality is that you are actually in development here, because now after castles, bishop h3, the big difference is that their bishop can't get out, yours can, immediately nets at least an exchange for you. And if they do defend the pawn by different means, then your development accelerates ridiculously. And this is on the verge of knockout already. And last but not at least, a lot of club players, when they see it, they go like, ah, this is bad because now they can't castle. Not true. I mean, true that we can't castle, not true it's not good. It's brilliant now for black, because now we dominate the whole entire center, and in fact your king is totally safe here. Like normally these games that start like this don't go for longer on than for another 10 moves at the absolute most, because if you imagine a stock standard continuation like that, now the white pieces are just scattered all over the shop.
Yep.
Super annoying pin, absolutely waste of space. Knight, e4 pending, winning a knight, dominating center, 2 bishops versus 2 useless knights. You have the lot. So this is basically an inaccurate way to play for white, and we didn't exploit it. Remember it, because on club level it pops up like every single day. Okay, now the next thing that you need to know about the symmetrical structure is that it actually is best to follow symmetry and not to commit early, excuse me, to castles. And the reason for that is because if you commit to an early castle like you did in the game, then this pin is becoming frustrating with an upcoming threat of knight d5. And the way how it's related to castling is that if you hold castling up and you play d6, then bishop g5 is actually a horrible move, because now you have got h6, and if the bishop drops back, you just kick it out. And now this is a totally useless bishop for the rest of the game, and you can just simply play bishop e6, queen out, and castle here, and you are already way better. Way better. And the same thing works for both ways. So now white is the one after d6 who wants to hold castles up and not do it right now, because then bishop g4 is annoying. Now a lot of club players here play h3, which is the dumbest move you can possibly make, because you are preventing an error. Because if, for example, white here were to play bishop e3, which is one of the best moves, then bishop g4 again is not good because of h3 g4. So h3 is really not a good move here, because you are preventing your opponent from making a mistake. So bishop e3 is the way to go. So we castled already. Bishop e3. So now this is a bit of a mixed bag of funny moves. Knight d4. I do have a feeling we looked at this. Maybe not. But I do remember now that you sent me this link, because I had a look at this game. Now instead of knight d4, the traditional way to treat this position is simply to play d6 and try to catch up in development. I tend not to like moves where we play 2 moves in a row with the same piece when we have got still undeveloped dudes at home. That could be problematic. Yeah. Okay, let's go. 95, I suppose, as you said in the analysis, your plan was to create this pin. Here, actually, I was quite surprised, but knight takes f7 is very powerful. Because now they have got the 2 pawns, and yeah, this pawn chain with f4 is going to be quite dangerous. I think it's still a messy game, but yeah, it would have been interesting to see how that would have unfolded after knight takes f7. Okay, bishop g4, h3. Now my concern with this whole plan, Lawrence, is that it would be quite sound, and in fact there are lines in the 4-knight Ruy Lopez that look exactly like this, with the exception that the white king is already castled. And that's a very important difference, because then you do really damage the king's safety by taking on f3. But right now, I'm not quite sure what you're exactly threatening with even. Like, even if I said, okay, make another move, I'm not seeing what you're doing, you can't really hurt me. Because if you take on f3 with Ida, I will just take back. And you're actually opening up the g file for me. So in fact, I don't really think that h3 is a bad move here. Takes looks totally fine to me. And it's an illusion that, oh, we can kingside. Not at all. They can castle this way.
Okay.
So, yeah, what they needed to do here after queen d7, I think, is to eliminate this knight from here one way or another, because that's the one that holds me back from doing this. So something like bishop takes queen d2 followed by castles seems to me to be the way to go. Although admittedly the bishop on d4 is really well placed, but again, after castles I can kick you out. Yeah, maybe knight e2, maybe just play f4. There is a bit of a pull there. Okay, f4 is... it feels like they are playing with fire, and I quite like this very powerful play by you here of not compromising but going forward like a madman. Really good stuff. Did you see that after bishop takes, bishop takes, bishop takes, you had bishop check and picking up the bishop?
Mm-hmm.
Because if that was the plan, then I'm very impressed. That's really good stuff. Okay, so they took, thereby throwing away the game. Take, take, check. There. So they don't have c4 here for some reason that I'm yet to see.
I guess they do.
They do, yeah? So, I mean,
Yeah.
even after c4, you are totally winning owing to many things, including queen f5, picking up with a check, picking this one up then. But why would you do that? Like, why wouldn't you just go back to center, creating 17 different threats? Knight in, rook in, you can double up on the e, which is far more productive anyway than bringing the rook to the d file because you're doing nothing at all there. Whereas doubling on the e and penetrating would be absolutely deadly. So that was a very unnecessary mistake there. Remained unexploited. Queen d4. Okay. Wow. This was weird. Okay, it really doesn't matter, Lawrence, what you do here anymore, but to my mind, it's impossible that this is not the best move. Everything in me rebels in me all the time when I see pieces going backwards instead of going forward. And now you're rook and a knight up, so essentially I'm wasting my breath and your time because no matter what you do, you win. But it's the principle and the mindset that I want you to have. The constant going forward. No matter what time, what position, what material balance, forward. That's
I think my biggest problem now is making a plan, I guess, because with the rook to d8, it was just like following, hey, centralize your rooks, when it should have had like a better plan, and I fell into,
correct,
that c4 move. So
yes, and it's actually not really an efficient way to centralize the rook anyway, because as I said, doubling up was the way to go, but it was more important to chuck the wayward knight back into the center, where it would be very, very frustrating. Alright, let's have a look at the next. Navid20. Do you know anything about these dudes in terms of rating or something? Oh yes, I do. Okay, so this guy is significantly higher rated than you, and we are white. Okay, let's go. Wow. Alright, so he took on f4. That's interesting. Knight f3, d6, d4. Good looking chess here, Lawrence. Okay. Can you please tell me why I am stopping at looking at this move and why my voice went funny?
I actually felt really bad after I made that move because
as
the bishop is
my friend. Very
stuck
good.
in there.
Let me make you feel bad again. Why does it even come up, Lawrence, as a possible candidate move? Because you know our mantra in openings, we need to play moves that are either developing or covering the center, and whilst queen d3 does cover the center, it is not only not developing, but it's actually blocking development. So this would be literally the last move I would look at to defend e4. So how come that this managed to beat Lawrence bishop here? Sorry. Which is the most natural move under the sun. So that this queen d3 is like, I don't know where it came from. Like, weird. Really weird. Okay, and now you are actually going to have some trouble with the pawn on e4 because, for example, after rook e8 you would have to push. And with the king still in the middle and the rook facing down on it, it just doesn't quite feel right. And all of this mess could have been avoided very easily. Alright, d5. I'm not quite sure what to think about that, because normally I do tell you that when a developed knight can be hassled, it should be hassled. The problem, however, here is that this is a bit of a concession. It makes your whole entire pawn structure, all the four of them, rigid, and it creates a weak square on e5. So now knight e7, knight g6 comes very naturally to black, and if I manage to blockade this pawn chain here and here, then you will have a backward e4 pawn for the rest of your life. Again, what I'm surprised about is that why don't we just play the natural castles? You're not done with development. So why don't we develop, and then do things, and not the other way around? Is the big question. But you did castle here, so let's go from here. Now knight g4 is a bit weird. I don't understand why one wouldn't play here knight g6 with the tempo hitting the bishop, and then commit to whatever, but probably rook e8 next. That would be way better. Another big thing, Lawrence, to note here is that if you castle and they play rook e8, if worst comes to worst, well, actually you have e5 here, but you could also defend the pawn on e4 by playing here. And it actually does create a tactical threat. Can you see something? Oh, actually, it may not be creating a tactical threat. I thought that bishop takes f takes queen takes f6 knight e5 was winning on the spot, but I noticed that it's not. Can you tell me why this is not a good move? Because it looks very hot and handsome, but it's not. What is the story here, Lawrence? This is why tactics is our way of life. Because it looks like it's winning and in fact it's losing. And all it comes down to is calculation.
So knight takes on e5?
Correct. And we can put the pieces back in the box we lost. If we take the queen, they take the queen and we lost a piece. If we take the knight, queen takes back. Yep, wait for a sec. My Lichess is reconnecting. Usual dramas. So takes, queen takes, and yeah, that's it.
Let's hope Lichess isn't down for maintenance. Okay, good.
No, it happens all the time. So takes, and they are pawn up and pawn on e4 is isolated. So this doesn't work, but bishop h4 does, because now after g5 we have a different tactic. Can we spot that one, Lawrence?
Let's see, is it the knight sack on g5?
Correct. Now
and
it's
then we're
too
hitting
good
the knight
to
twice.
be through. Killing, and if rook e6 d5, forking the family, game over. So this would have been way more healthy than going about it this way, but once again your opponent went crazy with knight g4. Knight g6, rook e8 would have been quite frustrating. Now this move threw me quite a bit too. Where are you going?
I think I just tunnel visioned on that knight and didn't see the bishop on c8, so feel like,
so did you think that this move attacked the knight?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Well, that yeah, I can't really make a comment on that one then. But even if that were the case, I would much rather come to the center than to g5, where your knight is apparently doing bugger all. And that knight is doing nothing. The only thing it's doing is that it's gonna be kicked out and you will have to come home. So whereas knight on d4 obviously stands like a boss, being in the center, being able to run both ways, looks way better. But in general, neither knight should really move. I would just kick out this knight and then carry on with trying to break through with e5. But okay, it was played under the misconception of the g4 knight hanging, which is a fair bit of visualization issue there. But we will talk about that later. So by now you must have figured that something was off.
Yeah, so I didn't take.
Right, okay, so you went queen h3. Okay. Now as far as I'm concerned, knight f6 is probably best here for black. And I really don't like your position. Everybody will have to come home with their tail between their legs. h6, and yeah, we're out. Knight here can, yeah, we just pick up this pawn. So in fact, I will have to run all the way back. But again, after h3, there is a very awkward correlation between these two pieces, and that is that I can't drop back here because then f4 is hanging. If I can't drop back here, then where the heck will I go? Because knight h3 is not exactly a Picasso painting, is it? So now all of a sudden, all of our pieces are just randomly scattered all over the board. But again, I can't really give you grief for not making thorough plans, because the first move was based on a tactical blunder. And so now we are just picking up the pieces of this puzzle. Okay, your opponent managed to do the worst. That's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Wow, rook f3. Isn't that literally, Lawrence, the only
Yeah,
move
I
that
should have
loses on the
resigned.
spot?
Yeah, I didn't see that either, so that's why I resigned after like
Wow, man.
desperation.
So that is
Yeah.
again very, very poor tactical vision, because literally when you look at this position and you go like, okay, what is black likely to do next? The only move that comes to mind is knight e5, literally. I can't name another semi-sensible move for black other than knight e5. So it's always a good idea, Lawrence, to be fully aware of what my opponent is doing and what they are likely to do next against any random move. And knight e5 is just such an obvious square. It's a beautiful outpost for the knight. It hits the queen with the tempo. Like, yeah, that was a huge mistake there. Yeah, and your opponent converted it quite comfortably. So, yeah, that was a fairly big time missed opportunity there. But a good lesson to learn from. Okay, let's move on to Sicilian territories. Okay, what the heck is this? Are you out of book?
No.
Okay, well, that's actually the worst answer out of the two, because then I especially have to ask, what the heck is this? Because if you're not out of book, then I do wonder what book we are following. Because this is literally a waste of time type of move. You should take on d5, Lawrence, here. And after queen takes d5, we are back in the main line Alapin. Whereas if they take with the pawn, then we are going to be back in a sort of an exchange French, but in a variation where you might have realistic chances of playing for an advantage, because the isolated queen pawn that is going to come from this structure. Yeah, this is a complete lemon. You shouldn't be playing this.
Okay.
This is actually pretty awful. Like, what do you do after takes?
Take with check and then take back.
Yeah, so which principles are we following here, Lawrence? Let's control the center and let's not move our queen 5 million times in the opening and then third time. So by move 8, we are 2 pieces behind in terms of development. We have played an utterly ugly c3 that blocks the knight. We can't play for d4. This is what I would classify as a cluster disaster as an opening. Where not only did we not follow opening theory, that's not my problem. The problem is that we're not following opening principles. So your first thing was to rush out with your queen for no reason whatsoever, because you actually could have traded and castled. But I'm not really fond of that whole business at all. But at least it would have been consistent. But coming out with the queen, then landing in the center. Sorry, I forgot to insert these. And then stepping into an extra tempo. Like, this is how I don't want you to play chess at all.
Okay.
So this is a demonstration of what I don't want to see at all, ever, from you. No matter whether you are in book or outside of book. If you follow chess principles, it can't happen. Alright, let's move on. Wow. See, okay, so this is mind-blowing. So your opponent plays a6, I'm lost for words, that you take, and then they take back with the knight, which literally blunders the game away in one move, and you don't do it. What is going on here? You played here d4. When there is a free pawn to take and there is another one hanging by force. What time control are we looking at here, Lawrence?
Here, scroll down. I think it's 15 minutes.
15. Oh, by scroll down you meant here.
Oh, 10 plus 10.
Yeah. I mean, okay. This shouldn't be missed. And this is what I talk about as tactical awareness. When there are captures possible on the board, it's not acceptable for you not to at least take a quick glance at it to see what it's like. Because literally, you just missed an auto win here on move 7. That's it. It's game over. Okay, so d4, which again is fundamentally wrong too, because it again allows your opponent to force your queen to the center where you don't really want to be. But okay, at least b7 is hanging. Not that it's a big deal, but whatever. Okay, b5, absolutely horrid move. Bishop g5, good stuff. Knight f6, queen c6. Okay. Can't we just take this now? His knight can't take, queen can't take, pawn has to take, and that seems to me to be a fairly sizable compromise on their end. So takes takes knight d2, and it looks like we are finishing development before they do. And no matter where they castle with this king, it's not going to be safe. And there is no value in this pin as long as they play bishop e7. Bishop e7, and now you took. Although again, this makes a little sense because if they take with the bishop, the pawn is hanging. But if they take back with the pawn, then you essentially wasted a move compared to my variation, if that makes sense. Because I told you to take right here, right now, and then knight d2. Whereas in your version, the bishop would already have been on e7. But they took with the bishop, letting this pawn go castles. Now here, you need to be extremely careful. And in fact, I don't like your position here much, because although we did manage to pinch a pawn, but we have fallen behind in development like crazy. Really, really, really big time. And hanging on to c5, I think, is super dangerous here. Castles, luckily you didn't do it. Now I'm thinking what the best way is to regain the pawn. I would probably play queen e7 for black and then pinch it. Because here, for example, after b4, a5, we might fall apart here really quickly and really painfully. Okay, back. b4 now is better because the bishop has left this very important diagonal. So bishop back, rook d1. Oh, I remember this game. I did have a look at this. This is a beautiful tactics here, this knight b8 move.
Yeah, I sent him a message. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I don't blame you for missing this. I mean, it's a tactical blunder, but it's such an irregular motif, especially with disconnecting the rooks, and it still works. It is an absolute oddity. Yeah, I can't recall another case where I would have seen anything like that.
I almost cried. It was so beautiful. That's what I sent him.
Yeah, it is gorgeous stuff. It is gorgeous stuff there, for sure. Okay, yeah, tough gig. Because now if you trade the queen, knight takes rook. Doesn't matter which one you take. Now this is so difficult to stop. You have to play a3, but after a5. Oh, actually, oh no, I thought rook a2 would cover it, but no, our pawn structure falls here apart. That being said, this still seems to be somewhat playable. You went queen d6, queen takes. Now, why didn't we take this Lawrence with the pawn?
I thought it'd be too easy to stop it with the two rooks.
I'm not arguing that, but the point that you need to notice, Lawrence, here is that you are in a bit of trouble in terms of getting these out. And I would like to address that, and probably with the pawn straightened out and the square closer to penetration, on occasion you can hassle a rook with d7 when the rook comes to c8, for example. So what I would expect here to happen, and I may be wrong, so we will compare it, is knight c6 threatening knight b4, yeah? Which is next to impossible to stop. So how would he play a4, and after knight b4 take this? And all of a sudden, I quite like white here. They can't take here because then after the trade of the rooks, you pick up the free knight. And if the knight moves, a6 is hanging. So this is getting really messy. And it's a good kind of messy. Now if we take with the rook, actually that prevents knight c6. So that has a lot of merit to it too. Yeah, it's a dilemma. They do have a5 though.
Yeah, the reason I did play rook was to prevent the knight from moving.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Okay, you know what? They both had their points. Let's go with it. Okay, so now it's looking very handsome. This is something that I didn't like because you had this.
Mm,
That's a
that's
much
nice.
better looking move, Lawrence. Defend and attack.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it opens up the d file for you to penetrate. This is, again, it's game over right here after 94. Because now you just have too much. You have a pawn, an extra pawn, and a way better development. With 94, these pieces are still very clumsy on the long diagonal. Okay, good move. Good move. Okay, I would consider here a4. And use the a file to penetrate upon, as well as weakening the b5 pawn. So after take, you could simply just go up and take it. But, okay, I will go with this, it's fine. What? Okay, well, there's very little to be said here. Now, can you tell me what the correct move here is, instead of even looking at the fact that your knight is hanging, Lawrence?
F3?
No. This is a typical example, Lawrence, of the amateur's mind. Oh my god, my knight is hanging. Who cares?
Oh, C6?
That's, Lawrence, why you came to rook c1. This is an ultimate example of the club player's mind, that they play rook c1 with the intention of pushing this in. Opponent goes nuts, game is over, and oh my god, knight is hanging, I must move it. Says who? Like, the reason why I played rook c1 is to get a queen. Now you get a queen. Why would you waste your time with moving your knight? Again, totally theoretical conversation, because you are winning all the same, but these are the moves that don't trigger resignation. Now we got there, and yeah, end of story. Good job. Okay, next. That looks to me a little bit desperate. Why wouldn't you just go d6 here? This is a total banana. Like, why are we going nuts? Isn't this hanging, or did you notice it, or what was the goal here?
I'll keep playing. Maybe you'll remember what I was thinking.
You were talking about this knight d4 thing, but it makes... Yeah, what?
Oh yeah, okay. Here's another thing that I messed up. I was like, too many things are under attack.
A little bit.
Very
Yeah,
much.
but the whole concept, Lawrence, is faulty. Like, why would you do this, which is apparently wrong, because you're putting the pawn on the square that white is controlling by the largest number of pieces? Like, it's just illogical, full stop. Could just play d6 and be happy. Like, they played a totally rubbish move, which eventually they will have to go back with. The idea behind this early knight sortie is that occasionally after h6 they play h4, and they wait for you to take it so they can mate you on the h file.
Is the fishing hook?
Well, I didn't know it had a name, but as long as you don't acknowledge it and just play d6, for example, hand down this bishop here, your position is going to be absolutely fantastic. But d5 here is, yeah, really out there. And
I think this was my favorite game because I was down a piece the whole game, and I think I managed to play very aggressively.
Which is what you always should do, regardless of material balance. But I definitely do give credit for the aggro play here. That's for sure. Okay, so take is pretty neat. Take, queen f3, okay. Well done for seeing this check. I'm not quite sure of the real merits of the move, but whatever. So what, yeah, after king e2 we can just call it quits, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry to burst your balloon, but whilst we did play aggressively here, we're still totally dead. Now it's getting funky. I do wonder if this was better.
Well, my idea with the rook d8 was kicking the knight and then knight e4.
I'm perfectly aware of that, so watch what I'm doing.
Okay.
Kick the knight, and then rook d8.
Oh. Okay.
Same story, better presented. Because now you're dominating this file too, the king is cut off. And your actual threat is immediate e4, rook d3, quickly mating. Okay, let's move on. Oh, wow. Spectacular. Alright. That was very little resistance there. This is weird. This is super weird, in fact. What is going on here?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm not asking then.
Oh.
Okay, why are we playing this? If that's the best move here, Lawrence, I'm gonna eat my hat.
Yeah, if he pushes b4.
Okay, this move, Lawrence, is utterly ugly. The ugliest possible move you can make. And ugly, in my book, always equals to really bad. Because it makes the d pawn backward, it allows your opponent to plant a bishop on d3, cutting your king off and disallowing your bishop to get out. So in a structure like this, there is every chance that despite of your tremendous current lead in development, you are going to be ending up down or behind in development because you can't physically move a muscle here. So there is no way that this could ever be a good move here. It's impossible. Literally every single move that prevents you losing a piece is better here than c4. And my number one go-to would be a4, by the way. Although, actually, after c4 bishop back, they seem to be able to play a6 here. I thought I had some tactical tricks here, but not just yet. So in that case, I have to revise this and go with d3, which very simply stops c4 and continues developing. Which should have been, by the way, your number one go-to. Because again, it's a typical case of stopping a threat whilst developing. Yeah, like c4 was a definite no-go. Okay, take. Knight c6 castle's good. Knight e7, knight h4. Okay, I will go with that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I have a feeling, Lawrence, that we are playing down too much. By which I mean that our opponents are too weak. Are these club games or online?
Online.
Okay, so I'm looking at the ratings. If I were you, your rating is 1366, his is 1387, yeah? I would definitely not play against anyone below your rating, and I would even go as high as 1400, 1450 even, as the lowest on your search. So you always want to play up, and never down. What's the opponent's rating here? We don't have it.
I'm not sure. I think this was a...
Okay. I'll just go with it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's carry on here. Are we missing some tactical tricks here, Lawrence, by any chance? Also known as the elastic bend. Have you ever heard of the elastic bend?
Yes.
Okay.
You, let's see. Knight takes on e5, and then.
Now the reason why it might not work right now is because queen takes is hurting here, so I might have to revisit the idea, move later. So you played 97. Actually, this seems to be fine, and now they defended the elastic bend, so it's all good. Now see, this is how I want you to play chess.
Yay.
Okay, so that's a picture-perfect example of fully completed development. This is the way to go. Okay, bishop g5, knight g6, makes sense. Bishop takes, f takes, I like that now. Knight d2, rook f7. Okay. Little bit timid.
Yeah, rook f5.
Rook f5 is definitely very tempting. If the plan is to double on the f, and why shouldn't it be the plan, then knight f5 is really good. I was even looking at the simple h6.
Yeah.
Because if the bishop is forced onto this diagonal, it's a dead piece of meat. All it does is it's shooting in the back of its own pawn.
Would it force a trade if we went to d3 or e3.
But that's a horrid trade, Lawrence, because that's double pawns here, right?
Okay.
So that's really, really bad. Now e5 is gonna drop almost inevitably.
Okay.
So they can't really go with that. Okay, there, quite good. And now we went rook f5. Okay. B4. Yeah, b4 is definitely a bit of a pain. Okay, logic would suggest to come back here, I guess. Aren't we targeting this pawn, sir?
I think I was too focused on that diagonal dark squared against the king.
So what are you proposing to do there?
I mean, I'm hitting it a lot.
No, you're not. It looks like you are, but you're not. You're
Yeah.
hitting it with 2. These are not hitting it. Not yet. And I'm fully with you that if I were to play a move like this, then tactics like this would be absolutely devastating. But again, for that trick to work, you don't need the queen here. That works just as well if that queen was here. So you have got a bit more influence on what's happening on the board if you come here, because now this diagonal is still totally murdered. Oh, hang on a second, I'm talking rubbish. No, I'm not. Okay, I thought for a second that I missed something here, but knight d4 is forking everybody. Yeah, I prefer queen c7, it just attacks more stuff, but let's go with it. Okay, beautiful exchange sack, love it. I have no idea why this is played. Can we not attack here, Lawrence? Like, there are freebies to capture and to hurt. You miss literally a forced win here, as far as I can tell. Like, look around, Lawrence, of what's hanging.
E5's hanging.
Yeah, okay, so let's not go any further. Why don't we take it?
It's a good question.
I have got a lot of very good questions, Lawrence. This comes with the profession. Like, the whole point of destroying or sacking an exchange of an f3 is to basically eliminate the defender of e5 and to weaken the king. Now, how could we play a more logical move based on what I just said than taking on e5 and attacking f3? Yeah, and as an additional extra, now the rook is hanging here too. Yeah, so if we follow the logic of what has happened just then, we destroy the king's side so that this loses the guard and this is weak. And then we don't take it, followed by taking here. How is that logical? Chess is easy. You just need to look at these moves. Alright, let's move on. There. We're still not taking. I'm still confused. Yeah, like this pawn is totally irrelevant. Whether it's dead or alive makes no difference to the outcome of the game. None whatsoever. Totally unimportant. You need to play in the center and on the king side, which is why I was pushing for having the queen here, by the way. Yeah, but I think we already lost the plot here big time because you still didn't take this for some really mysterious reason. Look at how h6 drops more than almost 2 points in devaluation. You are forcing basically his pieces back to good squares. Oh wow, and then queen there. Is the find the dumbest possible move on the board competition winner.
Yeah.
And then Lawrence, why is knight takes d2 10 question marks here? Typical case again of the amateur player that you forget that the focus of the game is this guy, not this. I don't care that this is hanging. Shame on us for taking it.
Yeah, I think that was my idea with taking on a4 was to come swing back over there, and I completely missed it. So
yeah, the tactics are letting us down, but also some logical components of our game is still missing, Lawrence, as you could see. All right, why do you think I dislike this very strongly?
Blocks and the bishop.
So why are we doing it? You just said literally in a split second that this is no good. I'm blocking my own bishop in. So why are you doing it? But more importantly, let's move on and tell me what we should have done instead.
Maybe knight c6.
Negative. Okay, so we are going to learn a very important opening principle here. In d4 openings, neither side puts their knight in front of c-pawns 99% of the time. I never say never, 99% of the time. The reason why it's so, Lawrence, is because in d4 openings, your way of contesting the center by pawns is c5 and for them it's c4. As soon as you play knight c6, you have literally nothing to play for. Your only plan here, once development is completed, is to play for e5. So let's say you put the bishop out here, pawn up, bishop out or out, wherever, and then you play for e5. And if e5 is shut down, you have nothing in the position. And consequently, your best move here is c5. And then knight c6, and then bishop out, and only then e6. This is how it works. And this is going to be some retarded London. You can play queen b6 or bishop out here. Please remember this, Lawrence. Knight never goes before c-pawn, and you don't block in your own bishop like so. And because of, I think it's necessary, this is a terrible move. It's not really good idea to capture it. You can always check it down if worst comes to worst, but I would just simply play knight c6 here and carry on. And you will, it will fall on its own accord. And in fact now it's okay to play e6 and take it, because they have given up the center. So blocking in the bishop is only a temporary thing, because then you can still realistically play for e5 and freeing it up. Okay, so e6, c5, knight c6. This is still okay. Alright, why are we doing this?
I was just watching your other video. I think it's a swap thing.
Don't watch other videos that are not reliable. Bad habit.
Oh no, your video.
Yeah.
Where I'm not
if you watch
realizing
my video, you would have heard me 17 million times saying that don't release tension in the center, unless you have got something to gain out of it. So I really don't know what you were watching that made you take this.
Oh no, I'm saying that it's.
Oh, you watched it afterwards.
Yeah, and then I realized it's not swapping for the center pawn, it's swapping
Correct. Well, that was one of the very reasons is that you're trading this pawn for this or this, which is side center for Lalal and rubbish pawns, but also it releases tension unnecessarily. It's not hanging, why would you take? Anytime you play a move you can't explain to yourself why you're doing it, you shouldn't be doing it. If you could explain it to yourself, then your reasoning was faulty, but I don't think you could. Okay, let's move on. And another extra addition, that in this position I can't develop my knight here, so it will have to go to a fairly silly square. Now you kindly cleared that one up for them. Yeah, so we are doing a lot of damage to ourselves and no benefits. Okay, that's horrid. Given that they could have gone forward, center. Although, granted, they actually wanted to come here and occupy the big square, so we will give them some credit. But yeah, that pawn was missing there. Oh, wow. They nearly had a beautiful queen trap here. Never mind. Okay. Okay, perhaps 97 would have been better here, Lawrence, because there are two things that you want to cover here. One of them is the c5 square, and the other one is to kick this bishop out from here. So if they play queen g4 in contrast, now knight e5 wins the piece because of the pin. And if they go back, then you can just play c5, and thereby eliminating... Oh, actually, you may not be able to because of bishop here, so not yet. But maybe something like bishop c4, and the c5 square is not a realistic weakness anymore. Whereas going in now was a somewhat ill-timed action. Wow.
What? Yeah, I missed mate in one here. I don't know.
Yeah, I will refrain from making a comment on that one. Yeah, you noticed it a move later. Good job. Okay. Alright, guess what tactics did we miss here?
Same thing
Correct.
with d4.
You mean knight takes e5 first and then d4?
Yeah, and then d4.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that this is not gonna be forgotten anytime soon.
Yep.
Yep, okay. What the heck? Was this the development?
Oh wait, I'm playing black. I'm playing black. Sorry, flip the board.
You have been forgiven, sir. Okay, in which case, well, not really, because first of all, why bishop c5? Yeah, when knight f6 is the correct move, because this falls for knight e5, and after bishop b5, knight f6 is actually totally playable here. Morphy used to play like this a lot, and after bishop takes, pawn takes, knight takes, you just castle. It's not 100%, I think, well, actually, I think it is 100% valid. And if you're worried about d5 pawn, you can also play here d6. And then knight f6. Okay, so h3 was a complete lemon. Now d5 is getting a little bit excited here, I'm afraid, Lawrence. So again, what do you do if I take, take, and take?
Oh, take back pawn, lose the pawn on e5.
Yeah, so this is not justified. You are not ahead in development. You have got a somewhat awkwardly placed knight. It's very unlikely that a central thrust like this is going to be justified.
Okay.
d6 was your way to go, and go from there. Okay. Bishop took, pawn took, knight e5, bishop a6, d3. I do wonder if it's worth forcing a move, Lawrence, that they want to play anyway. In my book, that is a misplaced bishop here after pawn d3. Maybe bishop d4. And the idea is that if the knight goes back, then you can take, take, and take, and thereby exploiting the spin. Okay, maybe there was some merit in it. Let's go with it. Takes. Okay. I'm kind of tempted to have a look at moves like d4 followed by f6 or f6 first, knight back, d4, and then d3. That would be beauty. This is the motive that I showed you before, yeah? That if takes, then you take back, and these guys can't come out because the pawn has been blocked on d2. Remember this, that this is an ultimate disaster, irrespective of material considerations. Okay, take, take, take. Now, this would be awesome if it weren't for the fact that this can be captured. You desperately need your bishops, dude. Oh, wow. Okay, this is... actually, this is winning on the spot for white because of 97. Bang, bang. And bang. So, yeah, queen d4 was very ill-timed here, and, yeah. You needed to drop back the bishop probably to b6 to keep the two dudes and then start hassling the knights. Yeah, we are absolutely dead here. d4 is incoming. Okay. Apparently not. Wow. God, this guy is terrible. Like, pawn d4 here is immediately game over. Like, see how people don't understand the importance of development? Like, random rubbish threats, and all of a sudden, they are in struggle town. Now, even here, d4 is probably the way to go to open up the bishop, but things are messy. Okay, what do you think you should have played here, Lawrence? Oh, knight f3 is what you should have played. Good, never mind. Good boy.
Thank you.
Good, good, good.
Oh yeah, okay.
Alright,
So this...
let's pretend this didn't happen.
So, up until here, I think I severely miscalculated.
Yes, so what do you think is the best move here for you? Instead of that rook sacrifice.
Would it just be queen takes?
Queen takes is logical, but there is more to get there.
Hmm.
Anything hanging for free?
F2.
Yeah, why wouldn't you take it? GG. On your bike. And now you have got the check threat. So they actually have to trade, and then after takes back, it's a disaster. Bishop is pinned, you are going to win the bishop. You have got mate threats here. Game.
I think that pawn capture was what I missed whenever.
Yeah, it is a real tragedy. Excuse me that we went this way. Alright, so now you have got one realistic target, Lawrence, that you need to target here ASAP, and that is the G2 pawn. So the way how this should be played here is rook bishop here, pawn b3, bishop back, and now at least you are going to pinch this, because if the bishop wants to develop, it has to come here, but then after rook f2 they don't have time to cover the pawn, because that's hanging. In fact, now you are winning, but white can play it better. But here king f7 is an irrelevant move in the sense that, yes, bringing the king to the center is important, but now you need to very quickly create counterplay before these two come into play. Okay, h4, yeah, he's playing it very, very cluelessly, and now your moves are actually gaining a lot of meaning. Okay, no, I love it. Now it's really good, because now you are threatening to win their piece. I didn't expect them to play this badly, but I always get surprised by this. Okay, now they just made it. Super frustrating.
Yeah, I think my endgame is where I struggle the most. So if I act like a total idiot.
No, what you've done here was actually very, very awesome. I love the fact that this king came up the way it did. I think that targeting the g2 pawn would have been a more efficient plan against a better player, but here it seems to be working totally fine. But the problem here is that you don't have more than a draw. Now, I really dislike this move because it forces them to play the correct c4. So what you needed to do, Lawrence, here was bishop e6, hitting this pawn. And here you have got two choices. You can either go for, alright, I'm going to try to win your bishop, which is a very blunt way, and thereby forcing them to give up the pawn. But this is actually very double-edged because they have got d5 here. And now this is hanging. But even so, after g6 takes king b3, I would say the only party that can win this is you. But, oh, actually, no, that's not true because bishop e5 picks this up too. So now this is actually almost like a forced draw. Or you can be cheeky and you can play bishop c4 first. And now you realistically have a threat of winning that bishop. Okay, moving on. No, actually, you played this ending quite okay. I'm quite happy with how this went. Yeah, this is a forced draw. No, that was actually quite acceptable. What happened beforehand was a bit worrisome. Okay, last game, and probably that's all we'll have time for today. So,
okay.
Contrary to my plans, we didn't really have... Oh, we have seen this already.
Oh. Oh wait, this is a different... Is this a different one, or is it the same one?
No, it's the exact same
It might
game.
be the same.
It's the exact same game.
Okay. Then it must have...
Yeah, I don't know where we saw it. Red one. No, no. Maybe I have clicked on it in the wrong order, but we definitely have seen it.
Okay.
No, here we go.
Okay.
So it was, yeah. TEW and Redvan seems to be the same dude.
Okay.
Or maybe, yeah, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, we have seen this. Okay, so let's give a quick summary, Lawrence, based on what I have seen. Many of our openings go still south when you are out of book because we are not applying opening principles, which is center development. We need to stick to these like a religious cult. The most painful example of this was this early queen sortie in one of these games when you went queen e2. That's the one. Like this was really not cool. And I'm all up for playing the CC Sicilian. I think it would be somewhat wiser for you if you want to play CC Sicilian to go for it right away. It just simplifies a lot of variations for you. Because, for example, after knight f3 d6, you can't really play it because after knight f6, none of the variations are particularly good for you.
Okay.
Okay, so I would suggest to do that. And tactics. Like there was no tomorrow. Lots of tactical blunders in your games, fairly short-term ones. So depth of 2 to 3 moves. We need to eliminate them ASAP. Have you had any time to do those puzzles that I told you to do?
No. I've been working a lot, so.
Okay, that's fair.
I'll probably have time tonight.
When you have the time, try to squeeze them in. Use them for your teaching. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Good idea.
No, seriously. Why wouldn't you? That's a very comfortable way to go. So you solve one and then use it as a teaching material. That's a good way for you to revise it and move on. And at the same time, keeping, you know, the motives fresh and making sure that it all sinks in.
Okay, so I'll play stronger opponents.
Yeah, that would be one of my go-to is to increase a little bit the expected rating of our opponents. Tactics, and try to stick to our beloved opening principles. And next time around, Lawrence, I think we are going to dedicate at least a lesson, but probably a few in a row to just fixing up your openings so that you're up to scratch.
Okay, all right.
Is that cool?
All right. Yep. Are you streaming tonight or no?
We'll think about it. Probably yes. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
I'm going to stop recording now, so thank you very much for the lesson.